From a musk ox to a shark, all the way to a fly and a bumblebee, here are the top 10 bizarre creatures found in the Arctic Circle. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the Greenland shark. Sometimes referred to as gray sharks, these guys are a large shark that is closely related to the Pacific and southern sleeper sharks. These guys have the longest known lifespan of all vertebrate species at an estimated 250 to 500 years, which is unbelievable. These guys are generalist feeders, which means they consume a wide variety of different foods, but they themselves are actually toxic to eat. Since these guys live in the cold depths of the Arctic and North Atlantic, they're quite isolated from human activity, so they aren't thought of as much of a threat despite their large size. In our number 9 spot today, we have the musk ox. These hoofed mammals are native to the Arctic, and it isn't really hard to tell by their thick coats. These guys are one smelly animal, especially the males of the species, who have a strong odor from seasoned rut. These guys are actually more closely related to sheep and goats than to oxen, despite their name, but they are in a genus of their own. The modern musk ox is actually the last member in its line that first evolved in the temperate regions of Asia before adapting to a much colder climate. These guys have long curved horns that are seen on both males and females, and adults of these animals weigh on average about 630 pounds, and they can reach speeds of up to 60 kilometers per hour or 37 miles per hour, which truly is insane. In our number 8 spot today, we have a stoat. Also referred to as a short-tailed weasel or ermine, these guys are actually quite a widespread creature. They have quite a controversial history, especially when it comes to the 19th century, however. At that time, they were introduced into New Zealand in an attempt to control the rabbit populations, but instead, they just had a devastating impact on the native bird populations. They were actually voted to be one of the world's top 100 worst invaders. These guys are small but mighty, and they are absolutely ruthless, as rather than digging their own burrows, they were instead seen just taking over those of the animal that they previously preyed upon. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Reindeer Bot Fly. Now, for the strongest contender for grossest creature on this list, we have these horrible little flies. These guys deal with the cold climate by taking refuge in the nose of reindeer, where they also like to lay their eggs. I know, I hate it too. These are actually parasitic to reindeer as they infect their nose area. The adults of these creatures are active over the Arctic summer, and they have the ability to fly quite quickly. While flying quickly, they also have a very strong sense of smell that allows them to easily find reindeer from far distances. In our number 6 spot today, we have the puffin. The Atlantic puffin is the smallest of the 4 puffin species, but they are actually the most numerous species. They are easy to identify because of their distinctive beak, which features a bright orange-red tip and a blue or gray triangle that is closer to their face. White stripes can also be seen during the breeding season. Many people refer to puffins as the clowns of the sea because of their sweet and endearing, but just sort of awkward behavior. These guys tend to spend fall and winter in the open ocean of the northern seas, but in the spring they return to coastal areas for breeding. To do so, they nest in cliff-top colonies and they dig into a burrow where they then lay a single egg. Once the chicks hatch, after about 6 weeks they are fully fledged, and one night they will make their way into the sea, only to swim away from shore where they won't return to land for several years. We have the Arctic bumblebee. Bumblebees haven't necessarily been having an easy time lately in general, but the Arctic bumblebee perhaps has the most difficult task of all of the bees, and that is because of the harsh cold climate that they live in. These guys can be found in the most northern areas of Alaska, Canada, northern Scandinavia, and Russia, and because they live in these cold places, they have to go to greater lengths in order to regulate the temperature of their little fuzzy bodies. Basically, they use their large wing muscles in order to sort of shiver, which then helps them keep warm. Another way they maintain their body heat is by making use of sunlight. In these cold climates, when possible, you will definitely see them doing their busy bee work in the light. In our number 4 spot today, we have a lemming. These cute little guys are a mouse-like rodent that, as adults, are about 150 millimeters in length, with 20 of those being their tail. The population of these creatures has seemed to have quite a drastic fluctuation over the years, which many believe is likely due to changes in the weather seen in the harsh climate they live in. What is really remarkable about this cycle isn't how high the population reaches when it's at its highest point, but rather how scarce the population is during the lows. So much so that it causes experts to worry about possible extinction during these times, even though the cycle is only about 4 years long. During the spring on a high population year, these guys will be seen on lake and sea ice, but they don't really move in an oriented manner. Like, they don't all go north or all go south, they just sort of go wherever they feel, and they're rarely seen in large groups. In our number 3 spot today we have the Dall Sheep. These guys are of course a type of sheep, but these ones like to inhabit the subarctic and Arctic ranges of Alaska, the Yukon, and the Mackenzie Mountains in the Northwest Territories. These sheep are about 3 feet tall at the shoulder, or just under a meter, and they tend to live to be about 12 to 16 years old. During the winter season, it is said that adults of this species lose about 16% of their body mass, and for the young, they are said to lose as much as 40% depending on the severity of the winter weather. In order for these guys to figure out their social order and dominance rank, they have a few different behaviors, but the most popular one is likely the head-on collision that they have with their horns. These behaviors are mostly seen in the rams, or the males of the species, but sometimes are seen in the ewes or the females as well. In our number 2 spot today we have the rock ptarmigan. These guys are a medium-sized bird that belongs to the grouse family. They're actually the official bird for the territory of Nunavut, and they're the official game bird of Newfoundland and Labrador. Unlike many Arctic inhabiting birds, these guys do not gain a bunch of mass in order to hibernate over the winter season, and this is because of their limited capacity for fat storage. Depending on where exactly these birds are found, their diet differs, and it also changes based on what is seasonally available. Many of the males of this species emit a plethora of, quote, guttural snores and rattles, which are often directed at other males. In our number 1 spot today we have ribbon seals. This seal species is found in the Arctic and subarctic regions of the South Pacific Ocean, and they're quite easy to spot and distinguish due to their gorgeous coloration, which features 2 wide white stripes and 2 white circles against dark fur. These guys are actually the only species in their genus, and while during some seasons these guys are icebound, during the rest of the year they prefer to spend their time in the open water. During their time at sea, there is less known about their habits, as they tend to go quite far from land, but since they almost always come back to land, we have been able to observe them a decent amount. One thing that was quite interesting that I read about these creatures is that if they unfortunately find themselves caught in a kind of net, they will actually fake or play dead. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you next time. Bye!